clear surprise that came to my mind when I started thinking about this episode is the Minnesota Wild and them not being a playoff team. When we did our preseason projections and rankings of the divisions, we had them a clean sweep, third in the Central Division. And I know, Chad, you split yours up into like playoff locks, playoff hopefuls, and lottery teams. You had them as a playoff lock. So did I. I really liked the team. I said that these subtractions that they had in the off season weren't going to affect goal scoring. And so I wasn't too worried about the subtractions. Well, this team is 20th in goals per games and 20th in goals against. So obviously they've taken hits on both offense and defense. Of course, it's going to hurt. They had some injuries, in particular. No Spurgeon is definitely beating them up on the back end. That's for sure. But, you know, in the projections, we said they have to solidify a number one C. I think they've done that in Eriksson Ek. The way he's played has been phenomenal. He's such a good two-way guy, and he's, you know, right up there with 30 goals and almost a point per game. We said that Marco Rossi has to step up and be big for them. Well, I mean, he's played admirably so far this year. He's a 20-goal guy in his rookie campaign. And we mentioned that goaltending was a question mark. It's definitely not what it was last year, but it's league average. So kind of all in all, shocked to see that this team isn't a playoff team. And honestly, they've really turned it around since the beginning of the year. They've been a streaky team that goes on losing streaks early on. They lost like 7 in a row, then they'd lose 4 in a row a couple times, and just kind of streaky. Well, in the second half of the year, they are 19-9-5. In March, that's 7-3-3. Would be 7-2-4 if they didn't pull their goalie in OT again.
Yeah,
but man, they're playing like they should be right now. They've got a guy at 82 points in 66 games. We had some high hopes due to the top 6 of this team, the normally strong defensive core and some okay goaltending. We thought these guys were locks, and I'm so surprised to see them 6th in the division and 10th in the conference.
Yeah, that is rough. In case we did kind of the same thing in terms of picking surprises. I picked another team who I thought was really going to make the playoffs and didn't. So I'm glad you touched on Minnesota. Some other teams who are going the other way, I thought about Vancouver. I was surprised that they were that good. Even Winnipeg, surprised that they've done so well this season. So those are a couple other ones. But yeah, sticking with Minnesota, there's one number, man. You knew I was going to bring it up. And here it is. $14,743,588. That's the amount of money that the Minnesota Wild have in dead cap from buying out 2 massive contracts. So it's pretty tough to ice a competitive roster year over year when you have an internal salary cap of less than $70 million.
Yeah, of course that's going to hurt. And I knew you were going to bring that up because it's just so easy for me to poke fun at that, and all of us do it. It's actually on the back of Chad's business cards. He goes around and hands them out. It just says Minnesota Wild have 14 million dead cap, and he just dishes those out. Oh yes, and you know, we started to think like this is going to get in a lot of trouble, and then we thought maybe that's why they're going to trade Calen Addison. Then he signed for like pennies in San Jose, or has a pennies contract there, and they're missing him, I would say, and he's missing them because he's getting absolutely shelled, like a minus 27 or something like that in San Jose, and definitely not the point production that he's used to. But their decor has some holes in it right now. It's not what it used to be. The injuries of Spurgeon hurt, you know, and Dumba's. They're missing him. We said at the beginning of the season that after the trade, we don't think they are missing him, but we were wrong on that one. That's for sure. So yeah, salary cap is definitely hurting, and some of the moves they've made have hurt them as well. Yeah, it's a tough season for Minnesota. They're back to being tweeners, and it was a decade of tweenerism for them. And now it's, we just expected them to be better.
That is the worst place to be, especially year over year. And for Minnesota, though, like I feel like we should point out some of the bright spots too, because it hasn't all been bad. Like, Case, you mentioned that they've been playing well recently. How about Brock Faber? What an incredible season from him.
Unbelievable.
Like you said, Marco Rossi, like trending in the right direction. So things are going well in Minnesota to a certain extent, but I just have to keep coming back to that number, that $14 million number, because buyouts are the laziest way to get rid of cap. And I've been saying that for years. So Minnesota, tough season, but definitely surprising because they still have some weapons on that team.
Buyouts may be the laziest way to shake up your team, but look at the Nashville Predators. Like, look at what they did, getting rid of Duchesne and Ryan Johansson, changing up that mix, and look at the season that they've had. So, it might be a lazy way to do business, but hey, at the end of the day, Nashville shook up their room. Minnesota did the same thing, and hey, all the power to them.
Yeah, well, you want to know the big difference between Nashville and Minnesota? Nashville this season, what they're doing, they only have $4.5 million in dead cap. The most it will ever be is 8.5. That's over half of Minnesota's nearly $15 million, man.
And you continue.
It's lazy. It was lazy when it happened. It's lazy now. It doesn't
clip that Nashville Predators comment for you and play it over and over again in the next 3 years when they're struggling.
Yeah.
Oh, no. And I mean, hindsight's 2020, right? Like, fully expect this team to struggle next season. A lot of guys having career years, absolutely. But I know we're not talking about Nashville. We're talking about Minnesota. Even though those two teams have a lot of similarities and connections between each other in terms of ownership and managing and things like that. But with the Wild, I mean, it took a while for them to get going. Kaprizov did not look like himself. That was a big takeaway from the start of the season. And the last little while, he's looked like himself. We knew that Matt Boldy would get back to being himself as well. I mean, he is such a big piece of this team. Brock Faber could, he would be the Calder Trophy winner if it weren't for Connor Bedard. I mean, Faber may end up winning it. I doubt it. I think it will be Bedard at the end of the day. But man, like the load that Faber has had to shoulder on the blue line as a first year full-time defender in the NHL with their captain and Jared Spurgeon being out for so long, and the points he's been able to put up and the minutes that he plays each night, it's been very impressive. And again, I think, like, along with, of course, the dead cap money at the start of the year, we're asking ourselves, why did they, just kind of bring everyone back? It's extensions for Foligno and Hartman and Marcus Johansson, and this group didn't really change a whole lot. But I would agree with you guys. I thought they'd be a lot better and be more competitive, and they certainly have been down the stretch here. John Hines has done a good job. They haven't gotten the same level of goaltending that they got last season from Philip Gustafsson, who was, a Vezina caliber goaltender last season for them. And I'd have to say that Fleury has been the better of the two. But it's definitely not the kind of season that we had envisioned for the Minnesota Wild, but a lot of good pieces there. They've got some good pieces coming. That Kuznetsov, who made his NHL debut recently, Liam Ogren out of Sweden. He's a good player as well. You've got Rossi, who has finally broken out this year. So lots to look forward to in Minnesota, but yeah, they're back to being in that, in that murky middle, and that's where you never want to be. And so it's either, missing the playoffs every year or coming close, or they make it in and they're a lock to be a first round exit. And so that's something that they're going to have to push through eventually.
Yeah, it's not good. Definitely surprising.
Absolutely.
Well, first off, no, that's his name. They have a kid in Russia named Firstov, who is
oh my god,
he's played pretty well this season.
On a cliff there.
22 years old. He's got a bright future. He just came over and joined them in the AHL recently. So
there you go.
I look forward to him.
He's the savior.
That was good. That was good. That may be the longest pause we've had right there. That was good. All right.